Before we begin, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and whatever you do, don't check the time. This is Fogwake Stories. If you're new here, hit subscribe. If you've ever lost someone without answers, tell me in the comments. This story might sound familiar. Tonight I'll tell you about a place not found on maps. A place that exists only in November. And the man who went there looking for answers, but never came back the same. This is the village that vanished every November. I never believed in curses, ghosts. Sure, I've seen shadows move when no one was there, heard whispers in empty houses, the usual. But curses, that always sounded like folklore, until I found the letter. My name is Elliot Marks. I was a freelance journalist, or at least I used to be, back before all this happened. In 2021, I received a letter in the mail. No stamp, no return address, just a yellow, weathered envelope with wax sealing it shut. It said, "You must come to Elmer before November ends." I thought it was a joke, until I saw my father's name inside. He died in 2002 in a crash near a village no one had ever heard of. Elmer, or at least, that's what the police said. They never found his body, only his wallet and a car wreck with no sign of life. The letter said, "Elmer is not on any map. It appears once a year. Come alone, leave before midnight, November 30th, or stay forever." I should have burned that letter, but I didn't. I packed my camera, my recorder, and a flashlight. And on the morning of November 27th, I left London and drove into the fog. The fog was thick that morning, thicker than anything I'd ever seen. My GPS froze. The road signs disappeared. By the time I reached what I thought was Elmer, it wasn't even on the map, just trees, fog, and a wooden sign nailed to an old oak tree. It read, "Welcome to Elmer. Population 129. The strange thing was, the paint was fresh, but the wood was rotting. As I drove in, the road narrowed to dirt. No cell signal, just the sound of gravel under my tires, and the distant sound of a church bell. Dong. Once. Then silence. I parked the car near what looked like an old inn, the hollow hearth. A crooked building with ivy crawling up its bricks, and windows that seemed to watch me. A man stepped out before I even knocked. He was in his 60s, pale skin, eyes too sharp for someone that old. "You came," he said, "like your father." "Who are you?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just handed me a rusted key. "Room 3. You have until the 30th, he said. "Don't go near the woods." Then he vanished back inside. The room was freezing. No TV, no outlets, just a bed and a black and white photo on the wall. It was a group of people standing in front of the same inn. My heart stopped when I saw one of the faces. It was my dad. And the photo was dated 1972, 30 years before his death, or whatever really happened to him. The room was cold, but not normal cold. A deep, wet cold, like the air was rotting from the inside. I looked at my phone. 3:03 a.m. exactly. There was a sound, a faint tapping. Not from the hallway, not from outside, from inside the walls. I sat up slowly. The tapping stopped. I turned on my recorder and whispered, "Room 3. First night. Something's off." The silence was thick, but I swear I could hear breathing. Not mine. Behind the wall. Slow. Wet. breathing. I stepped out into the hallway. The wood beneath my feet creaked, and a single lantern flickered at the far end. The hallway looked longer than it had before, and standing there, at the end, was a figure. Too tall, too still. It didn't move, didn't breathe. I blinked and it was gone. I walked further down the hall, drawn to a strange door. No number, no light. It creaked open on its own, like it had been waiting. The room inside was empty, except for the walls completely covered in handwritten pages. Hundreds of them, overlapping, all saying the same thing. You should not have come. You should not have come. You should not have come. I stepped back, heart pounding, and then a voice right behind me. You have 3 nights, outsider. 3. The village does not forgive. I spun around, nothing. I turned back, and the pages were gone. Just bare, cracked walls, as if they'd never been there. By morning, I hadn't slept. I went downstairs. The innkeeper was already at the desk, smiling. But something was wrong. His eyes were red, rimmed with something oily. He looked older, frailer, as if he'd aged overnight. "Did you sleep well?" he asked, voice dragging like a rusty hinge. I didn't answer, just nodded, and his smile stretched too far, like his skin didn't fit his face anymore. I left the inn. The village was fogged over, but even in the haze I could feel them, the people, watching me. They didn't speak. Some didn't even blink. A woman crossed herself as I passed. A man turned away and started praying under his breath. And then I saw a little boy, maybe 7, standing beside a well. He was smiling. I knelt beside him. "Hey," I said, "what happens here in November?" His eyes met mine, solid black, no whites, no pupils, just void. "It goes away," he said. I stepped back. "What goes away?" I asked. But he just smiled again and walked off into the fog. That night, I wandered behind the chapel and found the village graveyard. Most stones were old, some unreadable. But then I found one, newer, somehow untouched by moss or time. And it said, James Barlow, 1948 to 1972. My father, that's my father's name. But he didn't die in 1972. He died in 2002, in a car crash. I was there. I backed away. The air felt tight, heavy, and then the ground beneath my feet moved. Not a tremor, not a quake. It breathed, a soft pulse, like the earth itself had lungs. Then the voice came again, this time right beside my ear. "You have 2 nights left." The second night felt like a curse. Thicker fog, heavier silence. The entire village seemed to shrink in on itself. The moment I stepped out of the inn, I knew something was wrong. No lights in the windows, no voices, not even the crows, just the sound of something. Scratching. The chapel bell rang once, then again and again. 12 times. Midnight. And then silence. I turned toward the sound of the scratching. It was coming from the woods, from the trees behind the graveyard. I told myself not to go. But my feet didn't listen. The woods were alive, not with animals, but with breath. You could feel it all around you. Every branch, every leaf, pulsing slightly. The trees leaned just a bit too far inward, like they were listening. And then I saw them. Eyes, hundreds of them, floating between the trunks. Not human, not animal, just pure hunger. I ran. Branches clawed at my face. The ground seemed to rise beneath me. I burst out of the woods, gasping, and I was back, at the inn. But it wasn't the same. The windows were blacked out. The door open, swinging. Inside, the walls were soaked with something dark, sticky, not blood, older. The air reeked of iron and rot, and at the front desk sat the innkeeper, Except it wasn't him anymore. His face was melting. Not dripping, but sliding, like warm wax over old bone. His eyes were empty. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then he looked at me, really looked, and smiled. And I heard it again. "You have one night left." I stumbled back, out the door, tripping into the dirt road. Something grabbed my wrist. It was the old woman, the one from before, the one who wouldn't speak. Now she did. "You can't stop it, but you might survive it. Go to the well before the third night. Go alone." She shoved something into my hand, a key, and disappeared into the fog. Back in my room, I locked the door, nailed it shut, blocked the window. Still, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the grave, my father's name. But the date was wrong, unless he'd been here before. I went through my dad's old journal, tucked into the back cover, a photo, old, faded, a younger version of him, standing in front of a wooden sign. "Welcome to Vale Ridge, population. 138 inches. I turned the photo over, scribbled in black pen. I left in 72, but not all of me made it out. I stared at the photo until the shadows on the wall started to move again, and in the silence, the floor creaked once, then twice, and I heard them. Footsteps in the walls. The third night, the final warning, and the village had gone quiet again, too quiet. No wind, no insects, no church bell this time, just the distant sound of dripping water. I held the key the old woman gave me, rusted, cold, ancient. I knew where it led, the old well. Locals never went near it. It stood at the edge of the woods, overgrown with ivy, buried in vines. As I approached, the ground pulsed beneath my feet, like the earth was breathing. The well was older than the village. Its stones were carved with symbols, strange spirals and claw marks. I placed the key into a hidden iron panel on its base. Click. The vines uncoiled on their own, like they recognized me. Inside the well, not water, but stairs, descending, deeper than the ground should allow. The air turned cold. The sound of dripping echoed louder the deeper I went. And then I reached the bottom, a vast underground chamber, candle-lit, filled with figures in robes. They stood in a perfect circle, silent, motionless, like statues. In the center, a stone altar, and on it, my father's journal. But the pages were different now, written in blood. I stepped forward, and the figures turned to face me all at once. Not people, not anymore. Their faces were stitched closed, eyes sewn shut. They moved without sound, without breathing. And then one of them spoke inside my head. "You have come, as he did." He opened the door. "You must close it, before Vale Ridge becomes part of the Hollow forever." The floor beneath the altar cracked. A black mist oozed upward, swirling like ink in water. Inside it, shapes, long arms, no faces. They whispered all at once, "Stay, stay, stay." I grabbed the journal and ran. The mist chased me, not fast, but steady, the kind of slow that never stops. Up the stairs, back through the vines. As I surfaced, the well sealed itself shut. No key, no lock, just stone again. I opened the journal once more. Now the pages were filled with names. Some were scratched out, some were still glowing faintly red. One of them, mine. The final page had only one line. "You cannot leave until it takes your place." I left the village before sunrise. I didn't tell anyone. Not the woman from the bookshop, not the innkeeper, not the stitched ones. I didn't sleep. I just walked through trees that groaned and bent in silence, through fog that tried to hold me back. I thought I escaped. Until I got home. My apartment door was locked, everything untouched, but the air inside was colder. And there, lying on my desk, was the journal. I never brought it back. I left it in the well. But there it was, open to the last page. And under my glowing name were 3 new ones. My sister, my friend David, my mother. I called them. No answer. I drove through the night. Every light seemed dimmer, every road longer. When I got to David's house, the windows were boarded, mail piled outside, like he'd been gone for weeks. But he had texted me yesterday, hadn't he? I went to my sister's apartment. The door was open. Inside, the walls were covered in names, thousands of them, some glowing, some crossed out. My name was on every single wall. I tried to burn the journal. It wouldn't catch. I drowned it in a river. It floated back to my door. I buried it in concrete. That night, it appeared on my chest while I slept. I opened the book. I turned to the first page. It was never blank. The history of the village stretched back centuries. Every November, it would vanish for exactly 7 days. And every person who entered it would be marked. Not cursed to die. No, cursed to remember, to pass it on. I understood now. The villagers didn't vanish. They were the shadows I saw, the mist, the whispering. They were watching, waiting, for me to finish telling the story. Because that's the rule. The village only vanishes if its story is told. And once it's told, someone else has to carry it. You listened. You heard it all. You saw the signs. And now, you carry the story. If this story haunted your thoughts, leave a comment below. Tell me what you saw in the mist. And if you want to hear more stories of cursed places, forbidden names, and vanishing towns, subscribe. Join the circle before November comes again.